The world's tired of her. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, continuing to utilise the example that is Harry's wife to enable you to understand the various and distinct facets of narcissism in action. Yesterday, as a consequence of reports about Harry's wife book writing, I explained to you that there was the suggestion from Daniela Elsa at news.com.au that Harry's wife was working on a book that would be a bit of a bombshell upon its release, and that it was hugely tempting for her to do so. However, information is now being shared from GOTV, which paints a somewhat different picture. And that's because it relates to the suggestion that the Sussexes are in decline, because in essence, the world's tired of hearing about Harry's wife. Well, it's interesting. I think many people would form the view that if they never heard from the Sussexes again, it would be a day of joyous celebration. Of course, for some people, it would leave them with a considerable gap in their life. What would they gossip about? For me, well, there would certainly be no more videos to pump out about her, albeit there'd be plenty of other topics that I can talk about instead, so it's not going to pose a problem for me. I continue to utilise her because so many people are interested in her. And this is where you have this strange paradox, because whilst there is the suggestion that they are in decline, which I agree with, and the suggestion that people are tired of her, which they are, nevertheless, people still read articles about her, watch videos about her, comment about her, speculate about her behaviour, dissect what she's done, etc. But the reason that they do so is not because they're especially interested in her per se, because they admire her, want to follow her, want to be like her, but rather they are looking for that moment when it all goes catastrophically wrong for her. People are hanging around to see when the train wreck finally crashes. And furthermore, they do like to observe what she's doing in order to then comment upon it and pick it apart. So she has this strange situation whereby there's a rump of people who are interested in her, and you don't have to go too far on social media to find these cesspits of support where they're awful about the other royals, but keep talking about how wonderful Harry's wife is. So the supporters still do remain, but the larger groups are those which are heartily sick and tired of knowing about her, of being told about here she is wearing another outfit and this is where you can get it from, and here she is in a convoy going 200 feet rather than actually walking, and here she is doing another pap walk as she leaves the dentist's. And because she keeps thrusting this forward, people respond to it. But I dare say if you were to undertake a poll of those individuals, they would say, in actual fact, if she disappeared tomorrow, I'd be rather delighted. GOTV, with the enigmatically named web desk, tells us Harry's wife will have to wait before releasing her bombshell memoir that is already making waves with possible juicy gossip about royal family that the Duchess might spill. Harry's wife, the Duchess of Sussex, is reportedly writing her autobiography, following in the footsteps of her husband Prince Harry, which she has been tipped to not release this year or the next. Speaking with Express.co.uk, PR guru Edward Coram James said it would be a PR disaster if Harry's wife released her memoir, as people are tired of hearing about the Sussexes. I would be surprised were Harry's wife to release an autobiography any time in the next few years, the expert told the publication. He added, "You don't release a biography when the world is arguably a little tired of hearing from you. Interest in the Sussexes is currently on the decline, and their currency has diminished this year. He pointed out how the criticism over their documentary, Harry and Harry's Wife, failed Spotify podcast, and backlash over some of their recent appearance could affect Harry's wife's memoir. At some point, interest in the royal couple will rise again. I wouldn't be too sure about that, perhaps only when they're getting divorced. Harry's wife should wait until that moment, Edward further told the publications. That being said, the Sussexes have defied many a long-held PR golden rule, I would argue to their detriment, over the past few years. So, in some respects, disregarding this one, and releasing the memoir at a time when many simply would not want it, would not come as much of a surprise at all, he concluded. A PR expert, throwing considerable shade on Harry's wife in terms of explaining that their brand is in decline, that interest in her is waning, and that she never follows the PR golden rules. None of that really comes at any surprise. After all, as a narcissist, Harry's wife believes that she is always correct in what she does. You only have to watch her in terms of what she wears to realise that there's somewhere a stylist who's probably bald by now from pulling out his or her hair as a consequence of their frustration at her inability to accept their advice on what she would wear. She believes that she is expert of everything, and thus when it comes to PR, you can well imagine that she's calling the shots and that the agency is just sat there shaking its head, rolling its eyes at her ridiculous suggestions. She thinks that she is always correct, and if you don't do what she wants, then of course that is a threat to control, which will result in her having a meltdown. Is it the case that she's going to delay her autobiography? Only time will tell. Certainly one will appear. She can't resist the temptation to do so. It gives her such an opportunity to assert control over people, draw fuel by way of their reactions, and of course generate money. After seeing the comparative success of her husband's autobiography, we know that she will want to trump that, and she believes that if he managed to achieve all of that and the money associated with it, so can she. Her eyes will light up with dollar signs. Of course, the Suggars will buy it, even though they'll have to have it read to them because their level of reading capacity is pretty low indeed, and if there are any multisyllable words in there, they will truly struggle. But beyond that, the only people really that were likely to buy it would be for those that want to basically have a grudge read, i.e. they don't like her and they want to see the crap that she comes out with. The revelation that the world is tired of Harry's wife comes as no surprise, and that's what happens with a mid-range narcissist who repeatedly seeks to assert control through being seen everywhere and issuing so many PR puff pieces about the most banal and meaningless things that she does. Ultimately, it starts to create a fatigue. Oh, goodness me, here she is again. Now, in part, that's generated by the media that knows that plenty of people will click on what she's up to because they want to have a good old bellyache about her because she's so disliked. But also, she doesn't help herself by ensuring that press releases are fired out there, thrown around like confetti at a wedding, ensuring that she is spoken about because her narcissism demands it. And once again, it creates a collateral consequence, namely, the world is tired of her. This adds to the decreasing circle that she continues in the downward spiral as people walk away from her, no longer interested at all, that they bypass what she has to say, or they become increasingly infuriated at her repeated attempts to stay relevant, causing more and more people to turn against her. She just speeds up the downward spiral rather, as she attempts to cling on to relevance, which is another word essentially for her ability to assert control and draw fuel. Round and round she goes, dropping each time that little bit further towards the abyss of obscurity. It will come, but she's not there just yet, as she fights hard to ensure that the agency that she's recently employed keeps her prominent. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.